Remember this? I'm fine not reading The Deal by Elle Kennedy. Let me know if you read it, what you thought. Or this. For example, these two, I've heard a lot about Ruby Dixon and the Ice Planet Barbarians, but I don't know. I don't know if I'd be an alien romance fan. You guys give the best advice. Hi, my name's Bea. Welcome to my channel, Mama Needs to Read Romance. And listen to the advice of my online bookish friends. I mean, look at this. This is how all in I've gone on the alien romance. Can you believe it? I never would have believed this in 5 million years. I got this, by the way, through the Hello Lovely box. Christi of Christi Reads a Lot. She's got an account. If you use her code, you can get this for like 15% off. I'll leave a link below. Moving on. So, you're busy. You either got things to do or you got other YouTube videos to watch. I mean, I know the other booktubers around. They're amazing. I want to tell you how I've broken this video down to make it easiest for you to access before you need to click off. Let's do this. So in January, I did my first ever Goodreads reading challenge, and I said that I would try to read 104 books this year, which gave me about 2 books a week. Did I accomplish 9 books in January since it's like 4.5 weeks? Let's look at the graphics, shall we? I read 10 contemporary romance books, 5 of which were hockey, and 1 was magical realism, which was really fun. I read 9 science fiction or fantasy books, and 8 of those 9 were alien. I read only 5 historical romance. That is a total of 24 books in 1 month. You may be thinking, what? How? Well, let me tell you how. 5 of the books were novellas, which really isn't a whole lot. I also just got Anyplay, which is, I can leave a link below. This is not a paid thing for me, by the way. Anyplay doesn't know I exist outside of the fact that I have an account. It is a subscription service where it's a ton of books at your fingertips. It's $9.99 a month, and they have such an incredible selection of books. I've been able to listen to so many things that I would not have had time to listen to otherwise. And then the final reason that I read so much more, illnesses. We did 2 rounds of illnesses in January. We did respiratory earlier in the month. Everyone's up all night coughing. And then maybe even better, one of my kids brought home a lovely stomach bug that they passed around to half of us. Thank goodness my husband did not get it because I got it really, really, really badly. And then I was excited because I had more time to listen because I couldn't move. But here's something I learned. If you are feeling nauseous, certain love scenes are not going to be good for you. I got to try a lot of new authors, which was fun. Melanie Harlow, Amanda Quick, Elle Kennedy, Lindsay Sands, Serena Bowen, Elsie Silver, and Helena Hunting. In terms of ratings, I was all over the place. I gave 1 book 6 stars, 3 books were 5 stars, 5 books were 4.5 stars, 7 books were 4 stars, 2 books were 3.5 stars, 1 book was 3 stars, 3 books were 2.5 stars, and 2 books were 2 stars. Okay, we need to talk about this. This is A Kiss at Midnight. This is the first book in the fairy tale series by Eloisa James. I gave this book 4.5 stars. Here's the graphic. Can you see the snowflakes, by the way? Are they too light? I need to correct that next time. We need to talk about this. This was perfection. He did a palm kiss, by the way, which I was like, oh, I'm dying. I love a good palm kiss. The first ball he doesn't want her to go to. No. He wants her in his bedroom in the palace. It's a palace bedroom. He wants her to just lie up there and read. And he's going to come back in between spending time with people at the ball. So basically so he can ravish her a little bit. But he's like, no, you stay up here and you read. I want you to take a bath and a nap. And I was like, this is the perfect man. This is who I need in my life. It was wonderful. Now, does she go to a ball? Yes. Does she get ravished by a prince? Oh, yes. Does she get a makeover? You betcha. All the greatest stuff from Cinderella plus more. This gal's got bite. She is nobody's doormat. I loved seeing her level the prince. He is hot. You know what's funny too? He was really arrogant, but it worked. It worked like the Duke of VA in the Eloisa James Desperate Duchesses series. And Sebastian, Lord St. Vincent, it's like that level. Super hot, super arrogant, but it really works. And I loved it. And I was here for it. I gave this 4.5 stars and not a full 5 because they were like cutting each other down to size so much. I was like, could someone be a little nice? Just saying. Well, then we got to jump right into the next one, the novella Storming the Castle, which comes right after A Kiss at Midnight. It was just perfect. We got to go back to Pomeroy Castle. We got to see how Kate and Gabriel, who I totally forgot to mention their name in this book, they now have a baby, but the baby's not doing very well, so they need a nursemaid to come help out. They've had doctors come. Enter Philippa. She knows a lot about babies because she's done the rounds with her doctor uncle, I want to say, and she is supposed to marry a guy who's just deflowered her. He's the worst. He's not impressive. She's taken off. She can't deal with it. So she actually goes to this castle hoping to get work. Turns out they need a nanny. They had sent away for a nanny. So she's there and she's actually really helpful because of all her medical background with babies. Here's the thing though, she's now taking care of the baby at night. She's walking around the castle and who starts accompanying her but Wick. He's the illegitimate half-brother of Gabriel. So he's not technically royalty. He sort of lives between worlds. He's illegitimate, so he can't really hold a title, but he's been to all the finest schools. He actually is the acting head butler of the castle. And he falls in love with Philippa during their nightly walks around the palace as they're trying to calm down the baby. And she falls in love with him, but she's also between two worlds. She's technically a lady, but she's working as a servant. So it's really, I found it really fascinating to see what Eloisa James did with that. And the ending was so swoon worthy. I don't want to say because in case you want to read it, but it was just so perfect for a fairy tale. Just the way he comes back to her. I loved it. I needed more. So otherwise I'd have given it 5. Oh, let's talk about the deal. I gave this 4.5 stars. You guys were so right. I'm so glad I read that book and I listened to it. Christian Fox, by the way, fabulous narrator. Totally loved him. You were so right though. And I'm so thankful that you told me that Garrett becomes better because it was a little while coming. I would have DNF'd this. I really would have, like multiple times throughout, because this guy is terrible in the beginning. And at one point, Hannah, our heroine, walks in while he's with another woman. He turns out to be so incredible and so protective, not possessive. I loved that. I just loved him so much. Now there's trigger warnings in this. Hannah was sexually assaulted and Garrett, his father, was very abusive. So we hear about these things in bits and pieces. So we have Hannah, she's brilliant, and Garrett, who needs to stay on the college hockey team. In order to do that, he has to maintain a certain GPA and he is flunking out of one of their classes. So he begs Hannah to tutor him. She finally gives in. They become good friends and friendship blossoms into more. And it's funny, she was going to be tutoring him because she had her eyes on another guy. She realized that if she was Garrett, because he's so popular, that then the guy she wants would notice her and then she could go on a date with him. It's so good. I really enjoyed this book. Let's talk about The Wallflower Wager by Tessa Dare. It's book 3 in the Girl Meets Duke series. I gave this 4 stars. I would have given it a full 5, but it was a little heavy for me. Trigger warning, there is quite a bit of discussion about the sexual assault of a child that happened repeatedly in one of our main characters' past. So it was heavier than I was anticipating, but I still really enjoyed it. I loved how their love redeems one another. Instead of an actual Duke like we had in the first 2 Girl Meets Duke series, we have Gabriel Duke, that's his last name, and he's considered the Duke of Ruin. He's a bad boy, and I don't tend to go for those bad boys, but it was actually more fun that he was a bad boy, and I can't believe I'm gonna say that, and here's why. Because watching Chase and Ash, the loves from the first 2 books, read Gabriel the Riot Act was so funny. I was laughing out loud so many times. They are all over him, and it was delightful. It was just so fun. And Delilah the parrot, who you're going to hear mentioned in the end of this video again, somebody voted for that bird for their favorite pet in romance novels. That bird was filthy, and it was also hilarious. And I listened to this. Mary Jane Wells doing the narration was such a blast. So if you are looking for a really good Tessa Dare or historical romance, I highly recommend this one. You don't have to read it in order of the series, but I highly recommend it because if you know Ash and Chase a little more, it makes it more fun. And oh yes, great love too. Here's an arc that I actually, because I was sick, I didn't have time to put this on my channel yet. Make-A-Wish by Helena Hunting. This is the second Helena Hunting book that I read in January. It felt really real. It was more grown up than a lot of the romance that I've read recently because we have Harley. She's nannying for Gavin, who recently lost his wife. He actually lost her in childbirth. So now, 18 months later, they're just having difficulty because the baby, Peyton, she's teething. And one night, Harley almost kisses Gavin. And they've been like a family, basically, because she's a live-in nanny. He ends up taking his daughter almost immediately and they move across the state. And Harley's devastated. They never really got a chance to talk about what almost happened. And she feels really badly. And then we fast forward 7 years and he's back. So now they're sort of back in each other's lives and exploring, like, was this a thing? Can this be a thing? And it was messy. And there were a lot of people's hearts that were really deeply involved in this, aside from just Gavin and Harley. This is book 3 in the Spark House series, by the way. The reason I did not give this 5 stars is because it was kind of too real for me. And if I'm looking for more of an escape, I am not looking for a book that includes a really obnoxious mother-in-law that keeps meddling. Not my idea of fun, as well as trying to be intimate and being interrupted or being fearful of being interrupted by children walking in. Not my idea of fun. So I don't need to read about that in books. Anyway, it was good though. A favor for a favor. I gave this one 3.5 stars. This was one of the hockey romances that I wound up picking later in the month from my Try a Chapter challenge, and I'm really glad I did. I got this through Kindle Unlimited during the Kindle Unlimited readathon, and I read it while I was nauseous. And some of this book made it much worse. It wasn't even the love scenes, but them talking about things that they would do to each other, or I was just like, please stop talking. It was awful. So do take that into account when you look at my rating. I tried to be objective though. The narration also, so you can get the audio if you get it through Kindle Unlimited, and it's Aaron Mallon and Jacob Morgan. It's gonna be hard to find a better narration couple than that couple. So much of the book though, I just thought, why did you say that to both of them? And he keeps saying he's an a-hole. Well, he doesn't say a-hole, but you know what I'm saying. I'm trying to make my channel more peachy. He keeps talking about how awful he is. And so does she. And so even during times that were more like maybe supposed to be sweeter, she's like, can you please not be that way? I thought, yeah, could you please not be that way? I did wind up liking him way more than her ex-boyfriend, who was just the worst, and no one seemed to want to call him out. I still don't understand why. This book was kind of crazy in various ways, but I did enjoy it and I would recommend it. Just don't listen to it while you have a stomach bug. I enjoyed this book, Reckless by Amanda Quick. It was my first Amanda Quick, but before I say more, of course we have to look at the step back. I mean, come on. This was so cool, and I really enjoyed looking at the step back while I was reading. You just get a better understanding of every piece of this, and it was just really neat. I was not expecting all the twists and turns of this story. I had been really used to listening to a lot of contemporary at the time. Most of the books I'd been listening to were told from first person, so this one being told in third person and kind of in a more historical type of language. I didn't feel like I was as sunk into the plot quite as much as I was with some of the other books I had been reading, which is maybe why I gave this 3.5 stars. I also really didn't like Gabriel. He flat out told her over and over again how awful he was. I was like, lady, listen to him. He is awful. She would say things like, we're never doing that again. And he's like, yes, we are. I'm like, oh, really? I enjoyed reading this as part of Historical Hellions. Like, this was their book club pick. It was fun to listen to them at the end of the month talk about their thoughts. I really enjoyed that. And I definitely want to read more Amanda Quick in the future. Okay, let's talk about a book that I was really sad not to like, Flawless. I gave it 2 stars. And here's part of my problem. And this also goes for the next book I'm going to talk about. I don't know what it is about me, but hearing a guy call a girl princess, especially during a love scene, irks me. It's a pet peeve of mine. The other thing that I cannot stand, whenever they say, good girl, I just feel like a sneer coming on. I'm like, really, good girl? It just irritates me. It's like when in regular life someone tells a woman to smile or calm down or relax. Good girl. It just bugs me. I don't know why. And I wish I could get past it. It's so funny because in this book, Flawless, and then the next book I read the next day, Tease, they do the exact same thing. During the love scenes, they call her princess and they say good girl. And I'm like, well, there goes a star right there. I I don't know why it bothers me so much. I know some people that's like their catnip. They love it when they say good girl. And I hope that anyone who really enjoys that does not think I am judging them in any way. So for Flawless, I didn't really like it. Our hero was fine. I mean, he was okay. I didn't find him to be very much in love with our heroine for a lot of it. And I didn't find the love scenes very good because it just felt like they were just attracted to one another. She's supposed to be helping him with his public image. And then there's one scene where she's doing like body shots in public with him. I'm like, how is this helping his image? I don't understand. And then like her father was awful and no one's holding him accountable. And instead they're angry with her because of the mistakes that her father made. So she's being poorly treated by her stepmother and her half sister. And then she has an ex-boyfriend who used to be her doctor and who is now, I don't want to give too much away in case you want to read this, but this guy was the worst too. And no one was holding him accountable. Anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't like this. And if you loved it, you're with the majority. Most people will love it along with you. So all the love. I'm so sorry. And then why don't we just go ahead and jump into teas? This one I had been a little nervous about because here's the other thing I learned. I don't like BDSM. It makes me nervous. There's weird things about me where I can't watch any kind of show or read any kind of book where there's any chance that an animal could be injured. And this is another reason why I like romance. I like happy endings. I don't like dark. You probably already know that about me. I can't do this kind of thing. I don't want to see anybody suffering. I don't want to see anybody in pain or uncomfortable, or if there is any kind of negativity, I would like for it to be over soon, or at least to know that it will end. And so BDSM, I believe is the acronym, is not for me. I loved this book. Most of it. I loved Hutton so much. He's this nerdy guy he's a billionaire and he is looking to get his family off his back for a few months while he's in town. So he agrees to a fake engagement with this gal who is a hoot and a half. I really liked her a lot. She just wants to look better in front of her old high school friends, one of whom was the worst. And they end up just falling in love. And it's beautiful. They go to New York. She gets wined and dined in the finest places. They even go to Tiffany and he buys her a ring, like just because she's a great friend. And they end up practicing kissing and stuff like that. And it's so fun and steamy and I loved it, except for the BDSM scene. I mean, come on, man. She's uncomfortable in her shoes. You're not gonna let her take her shoes off? Why? If that scene had been out of the book, I would have given this 5 stars. Please understand, no judgment if you enjoy BDSM. It is not my thing. Just like I don't really care to read most nonfiction, but I'm not like people who like nonfiction are the worst. You know what I mean? Like I don't want anyone to think I'm judging them. I just learned for me, I just can't. I don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable. Okay, now let's start talking alien romance. I started the month with Barbarian Mind, which was book number 4 in the Ice Planet Barbarians series. It was like regular barbarians, only barbarian-y-er. Our hero, Rook, is actually spent most of his life alone, so he barely speaks any language at all. And then we have Harlow, who is like the whiz kid of the crew. She is really good at fixing things. She winds up getting beaten over the head by Rook, and he carries her off because he realized that he resonated to her. He doesn't even really know what that is. He doesn't really know much about anything. She's got to teach him. And yes, he's sweet. I love, of course, the cinnamon roll type hero in this, but I felt badly for her. She's off on a beach, although some of the beach was kind of fun to read about. But yeah, she's kind of away from everybody for most of the book because he is afraid of all of the other aliens that live there. And yes, I did enjoy it, but I only gave it 2.5 stars because, you know, I've read better in the series. I also got to go on Anyplay and listen to all 4 of the Ice Planet honeymoons. So honeymoon 1.5 is Georgie and Vectal. This one was more somber than I was expecting, but it was really good. Liz and Rahash's book 2.5, I only gave 3 stars. I thought this was kind of funny because they're already exiled and yet they're trying to have a honeymoon. The only way for them to make it any more interesting was to try new tricks, which didn't always go over so well. Kira and Hako, 4 stars. I love them so much. So theirs is more of a baby moon because she's already pregnant, but I really enjoyed seeing how they could connect. Harlow and Rook, again, we're already alone. And I'm not a huge fan of Rook. He's okay. So, you know, 2 stars. Could have taken it or left it. Then we come to book 5, Barbarian's Prize. 5 stars. I loved it so much. We have Tiffany and Saluk. Oh my gosh, Saluk. He's like my favorite. He beat out Ihako now as like my favorite alien. Oh my gosh. He just wants to protect her and care for her and be there for her. He has no idea, trigger warnings like some of these sexual assault that she's dealt with in the past. He doesn't know what's happened, and yet he just wants to be there for her. He loves her regardless of resonance or not. They have not resonated. In fact, the reason this is called Barbarian's Prize is because all the eligible bachelors on the planet are having a competition to see who can win Tiffany's heart, or at least a trip to take her to the Elder Cave so she can download their language. There is some fun competition that goes on, but the whole time Saluk is just holding out hope for her, and he really just loves her for her. It has nothing to do with resonance, or which of course is the symbiote, the Kui that's inside that sort of veers you towards one person or another. And I loved the healing that was able to take place, and it was just so good. Gosh, and I almost forgot the other novella that I read, Ice Planet Holiday. They combined Christmas, Thanksgiving, Valentine's Day, like all the holidays. They had like a big feast. They discovered chocolate. I really enjoy seeing all the couples that we love get to spend more quality time together. I loved seeing how they got to do the holiday on the planet. The only reason I didn't give this a full 5 stars is because Beck is in this quite a bit, and he is the worst. I'd never seen an alien treat any of the women with disrespect, which I did not care for. It was kind of an important plot point because Aravan has to fake date Claire in order to get Beck off her back. It was very good. That's why I gave it 4 stars. I closed out the month of January with Barbarian's Mate. Oh my gosh, it was so good. Hayden and Josie. Both of them have very damaged pasts. Josie was in the foster care system where she was sexually assaulted. She was also sexually assaulted in her relationships, and then even on the alien ship before she crashed onto their planet. So she's got a lot that she's going through and dealing with, and Hayden is there for her. Initially, they kind of hate each other, so this is a great enemies to lovers. He's dealing with something that happened to him. He's the only male on the planet who actually resonated before, and finding out about what happened there, oh my gosh, that was crazy. Seeing the two of them turn from enemies to lovers was super yummy. The other part was this was a really exciting book. We find out about new parts of the planet. We find out about what happened to the ship that crashed in another book. It was really good, really exciting. I loved every moment. 5 stars. Okay, let's talk about the books that I've already talked about on my channel in the month of January. Let's talk about Make It Sweet. I gave it 6 stars. It was just perfect. Oh my gosh. It's California in the beautiful 72-degree weather. There's breezes. It's at a resort. It's really a French woman and her good friend, and then her grandson, and then people that maybe come and stay. So it's basically empty. And we have a former hockey player who he has suffered concussions. So he's had to stop playing, and he is sort of nursing his wounds by baking and being an incredible cook and being super hot. And then we have our heroine who comes to the resort based on recommendations by her grandmother. She is in a Game of Thrones type show and finds out that she is being cut. They're killing off her character. So she's devastated. So she just needs some time to heal as well. So she goes to this resort. They are determined not to fall in love, but guess what they do? I loved the writing. I love Kristen Callahan, and I love the way she writes a male body. I'm gonna be honest. The spicy scenes were super spicy. The scenes about food were super yummy. I loved the banter. I loved the everything about this book. Everybody's talked about how good this is, and they're not wrong. And Jacob Morgan narrated. Actually, it's funny. I listened to 4 books this month, all narrated by Jacob Morgan, and they were all hockey romance. So anyway, I love me some Jacob Morgan. And speaking of, let's just keep going with Jacob Morgan and hockey romance. I read him because I wasn't even going to pick it, but several people talked about how it's a comfort read. It's so good. So I ended up reading it, and then I was so hooked I had to go to the second book in the duet, Us. So this is by Serena Bowen and Elle Kennedy. It's an MM romance. It starts out, we have Wes. He is gay, and he is desperately in love with his best friend. They've been best friends forever. And this was probably before Wes even realized that he was gay. But Wes and Jamie have been together since they were like 13 years old, every single summer at hockey camp, basically all summer, and they're just the best of friends. And then Wes develops feelings for Jamie, but Jamie has a girlfriend. So the last night at hockey camp, something crazy happens when they're 18 years old before they go away to college. It's intense. And I was holding my breath like, oh my gosh, are you okay? Are you okay? Is everyone okay? Is everything okay? Anyway, their friendship ends. And years later, they wind up facing off in a hockey competition. It was really crazy. For me, I liked it much more once the emotions really started getting involved and just trying to see like, what is Jamie thinking? What is Jamie feeling? I wasn't as excited about Jamie experimenting with things, but more so whenever Wes was like gonna share like how he felt. It was like my heart was gonna stop. I'm like, what's going to happen? And then, you know, the ending was so wonderful. I was just so happy for them. And so of course I had to read the second in the duet, Us. And then it's all about the fact that they are together in Canada. They've made it work, but Wes wants to keep their relationship secret. He's afraid of what could happen to his hockey career if word gets out. The first half was kind of annoying because it's like Jamie's home folding underpants while Wes is living it up in the big life, dancing at balls and playing hockey professionally. So that wasn't as fun for me, but the second half, there's an illness that takes place. In fact, weird trigger warning. There's like a virus that's come out and they're worried about the virus spreading and who's got the virus. And I'm like, so it's not a huge part of the plot. It's a very important plot point because the emotion that starts to take hold as this happens, as one of them becomes ill. And I cried when Wes called Jamie's mom. Oh, I just cried. Oh, it was so good. I just loved seeing Wes with his found family, and I loved just seeing them get to be the truest versions of themselves in public, which you know is going to happen. And not only did we have Jacob Morgan in both of these books, Teddy Hamilton. So lots and lots of fun. Highly recommend. I gave this 5 stars. It was so good. I did the graphic audio because finally at the beginning of January, all 3 of the parts of the graphic audio were out. It was like almost 20 hours. And I thought maybe I could get through it by the end of the month. And I wound up getting through it within the first like week or 2 weeks because it was so good. I couldn't stop listening to it. I don't want to say too much because if you're wanting to read these, I don't want to ruin anything for you, but just, I loved the plot. I loved how things grew. It was giving me Lord of the Rings vibes, which was really exciting. I loved Farah and just how strong she's become. Let's talk about Rain Shadow Road, which is the second book in the Friday Harbor series. I was reading this with Whitney of Tiburon's Den. We really enjoyed this book. We have Sam, who is the second brother, and he is finding love with a woman who does glass works. She's an artist, and they wind up falling for each other after she is injured and he has to help take care of her. This book contained magical realism. There are things that she and he both are able to do that really shouldn't be able to be done in real life, which were really interesting. And I liked watching them fall in love with one another. Some of the elements were a bit contrived, which is why I didn't give it a 5 stars. It was like, no one else can help her aside from you. You're the one who has to help her shower, really? But I mean, obviously it made for more interesting scenes, but still, I was like, really? I loved the end. He helped empower her, and that meant putting himself in their relationship second, which I thought was awesome. So I really liked seeing a selfless guy in a contemporary romance. That was really nice. The rom-com agenda, I read this as part of an arc. I was really excited about it, and I loved the scenes where they're rewatching the rom-coms of the 1980s, 1990s, and 2000s. That was really fun. I liked watching our heroine fall in love with our hero, but the problem was he is trying to do this makeover to win back another woman who is the worst. And as he's falling for our heroine, he continues to remind himself of this other woman. The other thing that is kind of an issue is at the heart of the plot, which is all of his friends are trying to completely change who he is for a woman who they don't even really like. I liked the ending, and yes, it really did have some good scenes, but overall, the things that happened just did not work for me. And for my last of the 24 books, I want to talk about In Her Highlander's Bed by Lindsay Sands. So I've never read Lindsay Sands before. This was my first one, and this was an arc, and a lot of people loved it, and I did not. 2 women get really badly beaten, and there's someone that gets stabbed through, and then that person is dragged around before they pass away. I liked Callan, who was our hero. He was very sweet. Like, he was holding her hand in the beginning, which I thought was really sweet. And then he really starts taking care of her and bringing her every kind of food she could want. I'm like, oh, I could get behind this. This sounds great. But a lot of this book, I found myself just going, why? There's a couple things. There is a bathing scene where Callan is getting his hair washed by his mother. Why? There is a point where Callan wants to be with Alisade, and she's a virgin, so he needs to know how to please a virgin. So he goes and has a conversation with his mother about how to please Alisade. Why? At one point, he's excited, and he says that he's as hard as a dead hen. Why? At one point, Alisade decides to tell her cousins how good Callan is in bed. Why? There are at least 6 instances, I think I counted in this book, where they're going to the bathroom and they need to talk about the fact that they needed to go to the bathroom. Why? We know that characters, if they were real, they would need to go to the bathroom. But I heard about it so much. Why? It was funny. At one point, they decide that they need to hide Alisade away in another room of the house, the mother's bedroom. So rather than for her to be with the mother in her bedroom, they move Callan and her into the mother's bedroom, and then the mother moves to Callan's old bedroom. I was just like, why? You just need to have him with her, even though everybody's like, don't touch her, but we're going to move her, but then we're also going to move you. And then the other thing that was, I just found sort of gross, was she needed to prove she's a virgin. So there was a sheet and there was blood on the sheet and they needed to show it off. And I guess that really happened in the past, to show like, oh, she was a virgin. Here's the sheet that had blood on it. Ew. Ew. So here's my question to you. Is this typical of a Lindsay Sands Highlander book? I would like to know, because if it is, I don't think I want to read more. And now we come to our final segment. What already? We're going to talk about your votes for the 2022 Fake Book Awards. Let's start with favorite narrator. 16% said Teddy Hamilton, but a whopping 66.7% said Mary Jane Wells. For favorite historical romance series, 14.3% of you said Byron series by Tracy Ann Warren. Sounds good. I also got a 14.3% for the Hathaways, 28.6% said Girl Meets Duke series by Tessa Dare, and 42.9% said The Wallflowers by Lisa Kleypas. For favorite series, contemporary, paranormal, or fantasy, we had a 16.7% for The Friend Zone, 16.7% for Heartless by Elsie Silver, 16.7% for Carolina Comets by Tegan Hunter. I have not heard that one, but half of you said your favorite series was Stay a Spell by Juliet Cross. For best human hero, we had 14.3% say Hero from Our Darkest Night by Jennifer Robson, and a whopping 85.7% of you said Sebastian Lord St. Vincent is your man. For best non-human hero, 20% of you said Henry Blackwater, but 60% said Devraj Kumar. I am with you guys. For favorite heroine, wow, this was a mixed bag. 14.3% said Lady Philippa from One Good Earl Deserves a Lover. 14.3% said My Darling Caroline by Adele Ashworth. 14.3% said Feyre of the A Court in Roses series. 14.3% said Pauline from Any Duchess Will Do. 14.3% said Jules Savoy, but the majority said Emma from The Duchess Deal. Gotta love it. The cutest animal. We had 14.3% Delilah the Parrot from The Wallflower Wager, that foul-mouthed parrot. Rosie from Mile High by Liz Tomford, who got a 14.3%. Also, the PJ-wearing goat from Part of Your World got 14.3%, but the vast majority, 57.1%, said Breeches the cat. From The Duchess Deal, that crazy cat. For the favorite setting, we had 16.7% say the 1930s French vineyard in Across Time and Across Eternity. 16.7% of you said Winterborns from Marrying Mr. Winterborn, as well as other books in the Ravenel series. 16.7% of you said Jenners, which is from Devil in Winter, as well as several in Ravenels. But half of you, 50%, said your favorite is Stony Cross Park from the Wallflowers, Hathaways, and Ravenel series. It's also featured in another Lisa Kleypas of the Bow Street Runners series, I believe. Favorite novella, 16.7% of you said In the Darkest Midnight by Grace Draven. 16.7% said In the Bleak Midwinter by Mary Jo Putney. 16.7% said Deck the Halls with Love by Lorraine Heath, but 50% of you said When She Was Naughty by Tessa Dare. For favorite song in a book, we had 25% of you said The Rose of Tralee, 25% of you said What a Wonderful World, but 50% of you said In Your Eyes by Peter Gabriel. What a great song, right? For favorite paranormal book, 20% said The Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels, and then 60% gave Don't Hex and Drive by Juliet Cross your favorite of the year. For favorite fantasy book, 25% of you said Radiance by Grace Draven, and 50% of you gave A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas your vote. For favorite contemporary book, 20% of you said Heartless by Elsie Darcy Silver. 20% of you said Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. 20% of you said If It's Only Love by Lexi Ryan. But 40% of you said The Happy Ever After Playlist by Abby Jimenez. And last but not least, favorite historical romance. 14.3% of you said The Colonel's Lady by Laura France. 28.6% said The Duchess Deal by Tessa Dare. But 57.1% of you said Devil in Winter by Lisa Kleypas. Well, that was fun, and I want to thank those of you that voted. We'll be doing this again next year. You better believe it. Thanks so much for hanging out with me this long. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're enjoying whatever it is that you're reading in this year 2023. Until next time, thanks so much. Take care. Bye.